Now let's get to know the Dih-Mohn Flotilla a little bit better. And these guys are pretty good at planet exploration, and you also want to have a varied fleet composition with them. And I will come back to why a little later. But first, let's have a look at their starting units. So they start with 2 dreadnoughts, 2 infantry, 2 fighters, 2 dreadnoughts, 2 destroyers, 1 mech and 1 space dock. So with these units, we can only gain control of up to 2 planets in 2 systems. And in this example, I would probably go for both of these planets in the same system. And then hopefully we can either take the warfare card ourselves or somebody else is taking it, and then we can produce another carrier and 2 infantry with the 4 resources in our home system so that we can gain control of a few more planets. But let's continue with their faction abilities, and let's start with Flotilla down here. You cannot have more infantry than non-fighter ships in the space area of a system. So if we want to fill up a carrier with infantry, and note here that the mechs are not included in this limitation, then we would have to put another token into our fleet capacity. If it weren't for our first faction ability called Capital Fleet, because it says destroyers count as half of a ship against your fleet pool. So we want of course to produce a lot of destroyers, and we can have up to 8 of them. So in this way we can save a command token in our fleet supply, at least in the beginning of the game. And while we are at the faction abilities, let's also have a look at the third one. It's called Migrant Explorers. After you explore a frontier token in a system, you may explore a planet you control that is adjacent to that system. And that fits perfectly with our 2 starting technologies, which is Dark Energy Tab, so we can explore those frontier tokens, and we have the Scanning Drone Network, so we can explore a planet when we have 1 or more units on that planet. So as my first action, if I played these guys, would be to fly out here and not throw my dreadnought all the way over there, but fly them in here with our 2 infantry, explore those planets, and then when it got to be my turn again, we could fly out here and explore this token, and then we could also explore one of these planets once more. But we don't want to do that yet, because first we want to look at our agent. It says, when a player commits 1 or more units to a planet during invasion, you may exhaust this card to allow that player to place 1 infantry from their reinforcements on that planet. So we want to exhaust him, and then we of course want to place 1 more infantry on one of these 2 planets. And now let's have a look at the commander, and to unlock him we need to research a ship unit upgrade technology. And I think one of the ship upgrades we want is the Dreadnought, because we have a faction specific one. It says, when another ship in this system would be destroyed during combat, you may have this ship become damaged instead. And this seems like a good counter against the assault cannon, because here you would normally have to destroy one of your non-fighter ships if your opponent has this technology. So now you can choose to let this ship become damaged instead and get to save your other ship. And this unit can also be upgraded to tier 2. And then our combat value is increased from 5 to 4, so we hit a little bit better. And the movement value is also increased, just like the regular one. But note here that we are not protected against direct hit action cards on the upgraded version as we are on the normal one. But I think it's pretty clever, because these, if you have 2 dreadnoughts in the same system, then they can protect each other, both against an assault cannon, but also against direct hit action cards. Because let's say that our opponent uses assault cannon, so the first ship becomes damaged due to that, and then if he tries to use a direct hit, then we could let the other dreadnought in the system become damaged instead of destroying the first one. So I think a good tip here is to always pair your dreadnoughts so they can protect each other. And it is fairly easy to get this unit upgrade, because we start with a yellow and a blue technology, so we just need 1 more blue technology and then we can get this. And when we eventually get a unit upgrade, then we have our commander, and it says this card satisfies a red technology prerequisite. And I will come back to what technologies we could get in the red tree that would be beneficial for the Dih-Mohn Flotilla. And then it also says, at the start of a space combat in a system that contains 3 or more different types of your non-fighter ships, produce 1 hit against your opponent's ships. So we actually get a light version of the assault cannon. We don't get to destroy the ship, but at least we get to produce a hit at the beginning of a space combat. So that's why I at the beginning of the video said that we want a varied fleet composition. And I think I would use this red technology prerequisite to get the destroyer upgraded to tier 2. So if we, for instance, research AI development algorithm, I know that also counts as a prerequisite for the destroyer too. But if we got that technology, we would also have all the technologies we need to research Warsons. And then we have one more unit we can produce that helps us get those varied fleet composition. And if we really want to go deep into the red tech tree, we could also go for assault cannon now that we already started going down that path. Now let's take a closer look at the flagship. It says, after this unit moves into the active system, you may produce up to 2 units that have a combined cost of 4 or less. And I think this is really powerful because getting to produce units where you need them is extremely powerful. And yes, you are allowed to produce units in a system that contains another player's ships. So with this flagship you can easily make a strong surprise attack. And let's have a look at the last faction specific unit, and that is the mech. At the start of a combat in this system, you may repair 1 unit you control that is participating in that combat. So let's say that our dreadnoughts become damaged in a space combat and they have used their sustain damage ability. So if they get to participate in another space combat during that game round, then we can use the mechs to repair one of those dreadnoughts. But I think this is very situational, and I don't think it is an ability that we are going to use that often. We also have another faction specific technology. It's called the impressment programs. When you explore a planet, you may produce 1 ship in that planet's system. But we can also use it as an action. Exhaust this card and 1 planet you control to explore that planet. So in the first example here, if we decide to activate a system that already contains our units, then we can get to explore with the scanning drone network, and then we can also produce a unit in that system. But we could also use it as an action and exhaust it, and Wellnor for instance, and then we also get to explore Wellnor without activating that system. And that brings me to our hero. And we unlock him by scoring 3 objectives as usual, and then we get this single use ability. After the roll dice step of a space combat, you may purge this card. If you do, all ships in the active system become damaged. During this round of space combat, your ships cannot be destroyed. And to me this hero sounds pretty weak, because we not only damage our opponent's ships, but also our own. And it also requires that our opponent are producing ships that has the sustained damage ability. But I haven't tried to play these guys in an actual game, so if you have a different experience or you want to share your experience with this faction, please share them in the comments below. And lastly, we have the faction promissory note. It's called combat drills. When one of your ships would be destroyed, instead of destroying that ship, place this card face up in your play area. Return this card to the Dih-Mohn player at the start of the status phase. And I will assume that this is a single use, because we can only place this card face up in our play area once. So the other player who gets this from us can only save 1 of their ships before they have to return this card to us. And that is the Dih-Mohn Flotilla. As mentioned, if you have tried playing these guys, please share your experience in the comments below. Remember, you can support the channel by subscribing to my Patreon page. There's a link to that in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.